there, and welcome to the Attacking Anxiety and Depression workshop. My name is Ashley, and today we're going to be talking about setting realistic expectations. We're talking about expectations as our expectations often come with judgment. So the idea that we or others are either good or bad based on what we're doing. We also have a tendency to expect really high of ourselves. So that might be in how well we do at something or how much we get done in a day. So if you put those two together, we're basically saying that we expect ourselves to do unrealistically well or an unrealistic amount of things in a day, and then when we don't, we judge ourselves for failing. A common example of that is our to-do list. Most of us on our to-do list have way more things on there than we could ever get to in a day. And then at the end of the day, when we don't get to all of them, because we had way too much on there, we look at those couple things that we didn't get to and decide that we failed that day, that we didn't do enough, that we weren't good enough that day. And that completely discounts all of the things that you did do. We also want to talk about expectations, as the words a lot of times that we use in our expectations are emotionally charged. So think of words like need or should. Those words are emotionally charged when it comes to expectations. They put pressure on us, and that's what's creating that judgment. So when you think of the words of like, I should be doing something, I need to be doing something, in counseling services, we call that shooting all over yourselves, with the hopes that you find it funny and maybe catchy enough to remember it. A classic example of shooting all over yourselves is after a long day, you take time to relax. So maybe for you that's watching Netflix, and then as soon as you sit down, turn on the TV, you have the thought, I really should be studying. I need to be doing the dishes. See, that's shitting all over yourselves. And basically that's saying that because you decided to take a break after a long day, that you have failed or that you're doing badly. When really, we know that we all need to take breaks, recharge in order to be successful. So now I imagine some of you are thinking, I want to do really well, so I set my expectations high. And this is how expectations and goals differ. So with a goal, you typically set out to achieve something and then create an action plan for how you're going to achieve that. So think SMART goals. While an expectation is really just a thought that comes along with judgment. So I'll give you an example of I want to get an A on the exam I have next week. So if it's a goal, my goal will be I want an A on the exam I have next week. And then my action plan could be that I'm going to study for 15 minutes every day for the next week, and sometime during the next week, I'm going to complete the study guide. So now that not only guides me to how I can work towards getting that A, it also is a measurable way for me to know that I'm achieving these things. If I think of it as an expectation, I need to get an A on that exam, I probably won't create that action plan, and I'll spend the whole week feeling badly about myself or judge myself for every moment that I'm not spending towards studying or working towards that A. So I hope you notice the difference. So with the goal, I was able to not only have a plan, have a guide for how I'm going to work towards that A, but I also got to experience little victories every day. So every day after I studied for that 15 minutes, I got to say like, all right, I did this. I'm working towards that A. With the expectations, I probably just felt more anxiety, and I spent probably a lot of time thinking about how I'm spending my time rather than the actual content on the exam. Let's talk about skills. So the first step is always going to be noticing when you're having an unrealistic expectation. So that could be in a thought, that could be in your speech, and odds are you're going to use words like should or need. You could have a different one that you use also, but it's going to be along those lines. So when you're saying things like should, thinking things like need, you're shooting all over yourself or others, because remember that we can have expectations of ourselves and of others. So the first step is taking notice of when you're doing it, when you're shitting all over yourself. The second step is going to be adding in a more helpful, more positive thought to contradict your unhelpful expectation. So that could be as simple as changing the word choice. So instead of I should be doing the dishes, it would be I could be doing the dishes. That allows both options to be just fine and really your choice. Another option could be adding in a whole new thought. So maybe it's, I've been to class, I've already done some homework, I deserve and need a break, so I'm going to watch Netflix. If I need to do homework later, I can do that later. So in this example here, we have it broken down into a chart where it's written down. That's okay if you want to do that. If you want to do it more in your head, that's great too. But either way, we want you to start noticing when you're having an unhelpful expectation and then adding in that more helpful, positive thought, whether it's changing the words or a whole new thought. So your challenge for this week is going to be picking one of these things and trying them out. So it could be being non-judgmental towards others. It could be being non-judgmental to ourselves, so that idea of not shooting all over yourself. Or it could be forgiving yourself for past mistakes. So I want you to pick one of these. If you want to take a journal on it, that could be kind of neat to look back on at the end of the week. Otherwise, you can do this mentally as well. So pick one, think of how you're going to challenge yourselves. And before I let you go, I also want to lead you on to some other resources on this topic. So there are some great books and Netflix specials that can take you a little further on the idea of expectations and how that comes with judgment. So Brené Brown, she's great. If you can ever find anything that she has done, that's a great example of expectations and how they have judgment. So The Gifts of Imperfection is one of her books. She also has a Netflix special called The Call to Courage, or The Self-Compassion, which is a book by Kristen Neff. Thank you so much for joining today, and I hope you learned a little bit about how expectations can be unhelpful at times and what you can do about that. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time.